Because of their rejection of him and ridicule of him because of the color of his skin, he decided to be the owner of the bank. This is the condition of the author of our story, from the shoe polishing worker in front of the bank to the bank owner. But how is this? What we will know together through our story. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. In the bustling heart of Montgomery, Alabama, 1948, on the steps of the grandest bank in town, Montgomery Trust, sat Elias Booker, a shoe shiner with hands as skilled as any craftsman. His work was known for its shine so radiant it seemed to capture the sun. Every morning, the city's most influential men lined up at Elias's wooden stool, their freshly polished shoes carrying them into the halls of wealth and power. Elias wasn't just a shoe shiner. He was a listener, a keeper of secrets. He'd hear bits of conversation about stock deals, land acquisitions, and the bank's inner workings. Despite his talent and insight, he was always reminded of his place in society. Outside the bank, never inside. One sweltering afternoon, Elias, wearing his usual crisp white shirt and suspenders, stepped into Montgomery Trust for the first time. The marble floors gleamed under the sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Clutching a carefully saved $200, a fortune for him, he approached the loan officer. "Afternoon, sir. I'd like to discuss a small business loan," Elias said, his voice steady but hopeful. The officer, a portly man with a pencil-thin mustache, barely looked up from his desk. "You're in the wrong place, boy. We don't deal with your kind." Humiliated but undeterred, Elias walked out of the bank, his polished shoes clacking against the marble steps. That night, as he sat in his modest home, an idea began to take shape. He lit a candle, placed a blank notebook on his small wooden table, and began writing down his thoughts. Elias was no ordinary man. Beneath his quiet demeanor lay a mind that never stopped analyzing. He began collecting scraps of discarded newspapers, studying business articles and bank advertisements. He sought counsel from Reverend Calhoun, a fiery preacher with a knack for mathematics, and Miss Lila May, a retired schoolteacher who believed in Elias's vision. "You've got a sharp mind, Elias," Lila May would say, "but you'll need patience and strategy. They'll fight you at every turn." For months, Elias worked tirelessly. By day, he shined shoes and listened to every snippet of financial advice from his wealthy clients. By night, he read about investments and partnerships. His turning point came when he overheard a conversation between two bank executives about a failing cotton mill on the outskirts of town. Late one night, Elias visited Reverend Calhoun with his plan. "If we can buy that mill, we can turn it around and make it profitable," Elias said, his eyes alight with determination. "It'll take every penny we have, Elias. The risk is high," Reverend Calhoun warned. "But the reward is higher," Elias countered. With Reverend Calhoun's blessing and Lila May's guidance, Elias pooled his savings and convinced a few black families in the community to invest with him. Together, they purchased the mill for a fraction of its value, transforming it into a profitable venture by introducing innovative methods of production. Elias's knack for organization and his ability to inspire loyalty among his workers made the difference. As the mill flourished, Elias didn't stop there. He reinvested the profits into other businesses, including a small credit union for his community. Each investment brought him closer to his ultimate goal, owning Montgomery Trust. But with every step forward, the challenges grew. Racist competitors and corrupt officials tried to sabotage his efforts. His business partners received threats, and Elias himself was followed by shadowy figures on more than one occasion. One evening, a brick crashed through the window of his credit union. Attached was a note scrawled with a warning: "Stay in your place." Elias's hands trembled as he held the note, but his resolve only strengthened. Elias's ambitions caught the attention of a young journalist, Sarah Monroe, who was eager to tell stories of unsung heroes. Sarah approached Elias one morning, recorder in hand. "Mr. Booker, people need to hear what you're doing. The world needs to know." Elias hesitated, wary of drawing too much attention, but eventually agreed. Sarah's article, titled "The Visionary of Montgomery," spread like wildfire. The publicity brought both support and new challenges. While community leaders applauded Elias, powerful figures sought to discredit him. Sarah's investigations revealed a plot by local businessmen to create false accusations of embezzlement against Elias, aiming to ruin his reputation. The suspense reached its peak one stormy evening in 1953. Elias, now a man of means but still underestimated, walked into Montgomery Trust for a meeting with its board of directors. The bank was on the verge of bankruptcy due to a series of bad loans and embezzlement scandals. Elias's offer to buy the bank was their only lifeline. As he entered the grand boardroom, all eyes turned to him. The same loan officer who had dismissed him years ago now sat at the table, his face pale and expressionless. The tension in the room was palpable. "Gentlemen," Elias began, his voice steady, "I've studied this bank for years. Its failings are not from lack of opportunity, but from lack of vision. With new leadership, this bank can become a pillar of this community once more." The directors whispered among themselves, their faces a mix of skepticism and desperation. Elias's proposal included a detailed plan to restructure the bank, cut unnecessary costs, and extend services to underserved communities. After hours of tense deliberations, the board accepted his offer. Elias Booker became the first black owner of a major bank in Montgomery. Under his leadership, Montgomery Trust transformed into a beacon of hope. The bank offered fair loans to black farmers, small business owners, and families who had long been denied opportunities. It became a symbol of progress in a deeply segregated society. But the true battle for Montgomery Trust had only begun. A shadowy coalition of powerful businessmen, known as the White Circle, set its sights on Elias. Their influence spanned the courts, the police, and even state lawmakers. They saw Elias not as a man of vision, but as a dangerous symbol of change that threatened their control. Elias first encountered their wrath when one of his trusted executives, Mr. Franklin, was caught funneling confidential information to rival banks. Opal Winters, a brilliant mathematician Elias had hired to audit the bank's records, uncovered the scheme. Her discovery made her a target. Late one evening, as Opal walked home, a car with no headlights sped toward her. She barely escaped, hiding in an alley until the threat passed. "Elias, they're not just after the bank. They're after anyone helping you," Opal said, her voice trembling. Elias tightened his grip on the ledger he was holding. "Then we fight smarter. They want fear to divide us. We'll use truth to unite." Elias worked tirelessly, collecting evidence of the White Circle's illegal activities. At the same time, Sarah Monroe began investigating their connections to local judges and politicians. Together, they uncovered a network of corruption so vast it implicated some of Montgomery's most respected figures. One evening, Elias received a visit from an unexpected ally. William Hawthorne, a disillusioned member of the White Circle, arrived at Elias's doorstep. "I've seen what they're doing, and I can't be part of it anymore. They'll kill me if they find out I'm here, but you need to know what's coming." Hawthorne revealed detailed plans to frame Elias for treason, fabricate evidence, and use political influence to dismantle Montgomery Trust. With this insider knowledge, Elias devised a counter-strategy. He carefully leaked specific information to the press, painting the White Circle as a group desperate to maintain power at any cost. The stakes grew personal when Elias's younger sister, Mary, was kidnapped. A note delivered to the bank demanded that Elias relinquish control of Montgomery Trust. "Your family pays the price if you don't back down." Elias didn't falter. "We don't give in to cowards," he told his closest allies. Using his network of contacts, Elias located the warehouse where Mary was being held. With the help of local community leaders and Sarah Monroe, he coordinated a daring rescue. The operation was dangerous, but Mary was freed unharmed. The incident only deepened Elias's resolve. The final showdown came during an emergency court hearing orchestrated by the White Circle. False allegations of fraud were leveled against Montgomery Trust, leading to a high-stakes trial. Elias's young lawyer, Charles Whitaker, faced off against a courtroom packed with opponents. Opal's meticulous records, Sarah's investigative reports, and Hawthorne's testimony turned the tide, revealing the truth behind the White Circle's schemes. As the judge slammed his gavel, dismissing the fraudulent case, a wave of relief swept through the room. But Elias knew the war wasn't over. The White Circle had suffered a blow, but they weren't defeated. Standing on the steps of Montgomery Trust, Elias addressed a crowd that had gathered in solidarity. "They tried to scare us, to divide us, to burn down what we've built. But we're still here. Together, we're stronger than fear." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices carrying hope into the night. For Elias Booker, the path ahead was uncertain, but his resolve burned brighter than ever. The fight for equality and justice was far from over, and Elias was just getting started. Elias Booker's success seemed unstoppable, but in the following months, the White Circle regrouped. They shifted their tactics from direct confrontation to subtler methods aimed at undermining his empire. By manipulating the economy and cutting secret deals with suppliers, they orchestrated a series of setbacks for Montgomery Trust. Clients withdrew their funds en masse after rumors of insolvency, and Elias found himself on the brink of losing everything he had built. As the pressure mounted, Elias's allies began to question their ability to endure. Reverend Calhoun called a meeting with Elias and their closest confidants. "Elias, the tide is turning against us. We've weathered storms before, but this feels different." Elias stared at the room, his mind racing. "This isn't defeat. It's a diversion. They want us to believe we're sinking, but I see their hand in this chaos." Elias devised a daring plan. He liquidated his personal assets to stabilize the bank and began leveraging the credit union to issue small, strategic loans to businesses in the community. But this wasn't just an economic recovery. It was a trap. He intentionally allowed some of the White Circle's agents to believe the bank was collapsing entirely, leading them to invest heavily in rival businesses. At the same time, Sarah Monroe published a scathing exposé, detailing the orchestrated attacks and naming high-ranking members of the White Circle. Public opinion turned sharply against the group, and community leaders rallied to Elias's side, depositing their savings back into Montgomery Trust as a sign of solidarity. The decisive moment came when Elias revealed his masterstroke. He had secretly partnered with a northern investment firm to secure a massive influx of capital, ensuring Montgomery Trust's survival. Simultaneously, he acquired controlling stakes in the rival businesses the White Circle had propped up, effectively neutralizing their financial power. On a crisp autumn morning, Elias called a press conference outside the bank. Flanked by Sarah Monroe, Opal Winters, and Reverend Calhoun, he addressed the crowd. "They thought they could break us. But when you strike at the roots of a mighty tree, you only strengthen its resolve to grow." The community cheered as Elias announced a series of initiatives to expand the bank's reach, including scholarships, housing programs, and small business grants. Montgomery Trust was no longer just a bank. It was a symbol of resilience and unity. The white circle, crippled by financial losses and public scrutiny, faded into obscurity. But Elias remained vigilant, knowing that change required constant vigilance. For every setback, he had a plan. For every enemy, he found an ally. And for every injustice, he sought justice. As Elias sat in his office, overlooking the bustling streets of Montgomery, he opened the same notebook he had started years ago. Its pages were filled with scribbled plans, ideas, and dreams. Turning to a blank page, he wrote, "This is only the beginning.